Hey everyone, what's up? This is Ete with an episode of The Company Next Door. Sorry for that little hesitation there. On this episode, it's going to be a little different. I want to take some time it's just going to be me, so I'm sorry about that. But I want to take some time today to do a little bit of a recap. I started the show about 6 months ago, and it's starting to turn into something that I'm pretty proud of and excited about. And I've learned so much from sitting down with these entrepreneurs and these just good people that I kind of want to do like a recap summary of the things that have jumped out to me from the first, I think we've posted 15 or 16, but I've done over 20 plus interviews for this show because I see a lot of common threads, and I kind of wanted to call them all into one episode and share some thoughts about them because it's really been I've been doing business for many years, and I'm learning so much from these people, and I admire them all, and I've loved the time that we spend, the hour to connect and tell their story and listen to the story. But I've learned there's so many interesting lessons that they all have, but I'm seeing a lot of connections, right? A lot of similarities from what they're teaching. And I wanted to take a few minutes today's episode and share that with you kind of in one, what do you call that? A cliff note. There you go. This is a little cliff note of the first handful of episodes. So there you go. I'm kind of flying off the cuff as I normally do because I don't like to sit down and write stuff out. So here we go. One of the big takeaways I've gotten so far that I've really been opening my eyes. And just so you know, there's a show called How I Built This. That's what got me inspired. Guy Raz interviews big guys, like we're talking Chick-fil-A's and Dell Computers, the biggest companies in the world. And he tells their story. And that's kind of what inspired me. But I wanted to do it with our neighbors, with the company next door, right? With the small people. And some of our guests have made massive amounts of success that they may or may not have shared on the air that I'm aware of. But I wanted to tell the story of us little guys, and like I said, some of us little guys are bigger than us other little guys, but that was the point of this show. And so anyway, that's where we're coming from. I don't know why I said that. Okay. So one of the big takeaways I've learned so far is that I see a common thread that, number one, a lot of entrepreneurs that are successful, they don't have a full-blown plan when they start. In fact, I don't think I've interviewed anyone yet that said, Ete, I went to college to be an entrepreneur or a business degree, and then I did this, and then I got into Harvard and MIT, and then, and then I got at Silicon Valley and we did this, and now I'm worth $50 billion. That just hasn't been the case. What I'm finding is it's very different. Most of them had no clue they were going to get into business, or they didn't want to be in the business. Maybe their parents were entrepreneurs and they said, wow, that's a high, stressful life. I want nothing to do with it. Or their father was a builder and they said, I'll never be a builder. Like my episode with Dave Richards of Summit Contractors. And fast forward 30 years and he's an incredible builder. And he's been doing it for over 30 years and just had massive amounts of success. And so I'm realizing it's not so much that they're setting out to be this big success, but it's just one step at a time. Life throws us in a direction. There's a path for each one of us. And it seems to be that as they kind of get on that path, one door opens up. It's one step. And a lot of times I'm noticing they don't even know what's behind that door, what's after that step, but they don't care. They just say, okay, that's what I need to do. That feels right, or that idea came to me. And they take that first step of action. And then what happens is, I haven't seen the answer. It's like where it all just unfolds. But then there's another step, right? Like climbing a ladder or another door. And then they open that second door. And maybe that door is 10 feet higher than the first door. And there's another door a few feet. Do you know what I mean? And so that's one of the biggest things I've realized is it's not about, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to design a company that does this. But more so, you're going through life. You're meeting people. You're experiencing life. You're going to college, whatever that is, wherever you're doing. And an opportunity presents itself. And they have to look themselves in the face and say, is this for me? I didn't want to do this. Or do I have the guts to do this? And they take that one step and they put all their focus on that step. And then once that step's done, they go, okay, what's next? They're looking around. They learned a little bit. Okay, what's next? And then boom, there it is, the next thing. So many of the entrepreneurs, they just jump into things. It's almost that fake it till you make it. Hey, do you guys offer this service? Sure. Yeah, we could do that, right? Like, it's more about solving problems and not so much about just sticking to one, I'm going to build this way. And so I think the takeaway there is that they're open-minded. They're always looking for what's the next thing I'm supposed to be doing, and then they follow it. And what I've seen is as they look back, it's just a process of step over step over step of not even knowing what or where that next step or ladder is, but just getting themselves in the right place to take that first step, the second step, and kind of onward from there. So that's one of the biggest takeaways that I have learned. The second one that I have that's really stood out to me is that everybody struggles. Everybody has struggled, whether it's a financial struggle. We met with, here we go. I'm going to try to use my brain here. One of my first episodes with Dan Stead of Nature's Balance, if you remember, he moved from corporate America, Houston, to a startup in Midway, Utah. And then the economy crashed. And that startup went under. He had to make a choice. He had a struggle. He had 4, maybe 5 kids. Sorry, Dan, I can't remember off the top of my head. And he had to put food on the table. And they were going to college, and here he is. And what did he do? He looked around and he said, okay, I'll try this pest control thing, never doing it. And fast forward, here we are, I don't know, it's probably been 8 to 10 years now, and he's just killing it, happy, and built a great company. So everyone has had, a struggle, and they all look different. Remember Jeff Griffin with Griffin Motivation? He was doing, I think it was a painting job, and he falls off a ladder, right? And the doctors say paralyzed. I think he fell 40 or something feet, and he's paralyzed, they say, and he'll never walk. He'll never do this again. Well, fast forward, I don't know how old you are, Jeff, now, but fast forward a few years, and he is teaching people, and he's inspiring people and saying, look, this is what they said I couldn't do, and this is what I'm doing. And he said there's a point in every lecture. So he travels around and does these inspirational talks, and he gets up at one point, he says he wheels in his wheelchair, and he stands up somewhere in the middle, and the whole crowd just like loses it, because here's a guy that they told he couldn't stand, and he stands. I look at the interview with my sister, with Carolee from Ecolon, and she never wanted to be a business owner. As she mentioned, she just thought it meant a lot of stress, as she saw our parents work hard, but they had to work hard and just get by, and she never wanted to. And then life took her in a direction that she never encountered, with some struggles, and watching her come back from that, and not only come back, but come out of that, whatever you want to call it, that pit or that place, and succeed and thrive, a baby on the way, running a successful company, all these things. I look at my interview with Amy from Wigglish, right? Amy talked about in 1 year, her father passed away. She lost $1 million, and she got a divorce. And here she was later in life. I don't dare say the age because I don't remember. And if I'm wrong, I've learned that the hard way. Never guess a woman's age, although she told us. But you can go back and listen to that episode. Here she is with 3 kids, I think, a single mom, further in life, and has to run a business where she's never had to. She had maids. She had so much money. She didn't have to do that. And now she has Wigglish, and she's running it, and she banded together with her team, and they helped her together. And so as I go through and see these, I've learned everyone has a struggle, and they all do. And we could have gone into all of them. And what it is it's not about avoiding struggle or bypassing struggle, but it's about grit and bearing the struggle. It's about those hard moments when you go, I don't know if I can take this. And that's one of my staple questions. I only have 2 or 3 staples, and I ask them, share one of your darkest moments. One more I have to share. The interview I just did with Dave Richards back in 96 on a $27 million project constructing, and economy hits bad, it drops. And there's people who are losing money on this project, and he's got partners, and all of them just disappeared. Dave stayed in, and he answered phone calls, knowing the ship was going down, knowing there was no money, knowing that their money was gone. He stayed in, and he showed integrity as long as he could. And stuff like that, But when you look at all these stories and think about their experiences, to them, they didn't do anything great. They weren't a hero. You know what I mean? They were just doing what they felt was right. But that's great. I have come to find that greatness is doing what you think is right, is staying high with integrity when everything hits the fan. We've all been there. We've all had these dark moments, entrepreneurial or not, every person in life. And so I've been really inspired to know, first of all, know that every entrepreneur, it's not what you see on Shark Tank. You have an idea, you get on Shark Tank, next thing you know, you're making $50 million. That's not how it goes. Maybe for a few, but even that, the story is untold. There are struggles inside of these people, and watching them and learning how they overcame it with greatness, with dignity, with integrity, really inspires me. And it tells me that, okay, expect to have struggles as an entrepreneur or a human being. Let's be real. But expect that if you just keep doing the right thing every day, it's nothing big. You're a hero. You're going to walk through this and you're going to make it to the other side. And that's the second lesson I've learned. And that one has hit me hard as I have a good friend I just spoke with a few weeks ago. He's starting a new business. I haven't had him on the show yet. And this year looked nothing like what he anticipated. And it's hard. And I shared that with him. I said, dude, look, don't think you're special. Everybody has this problem. There's always dark moments. If there weren't, you could not enjoy the accomplishments, the successes. So lesson number 2 is anticipate, expect hard times. And when they come, your job is to grit through it, is to get back up, put on your uniform, make that phone call, add one more client, call back that client, stay in the game, show your customers you care. And if you do that every day, you will get through it and you will come out a better person, and your clients will learn that, wow, no matter what happens, like the Dave Richards thing, this guy's going to stay in, or this girl, this woman's going to stay in. They're going to be there for me. And that's the best guarantee you can give any customer. The third thing that I want to point out that has really jumped out to me is when you're doing business, give it your all. Really care, put your heart and guts into what you're building, and over time, it will pay off. A good example of this is Dee Downing with Red Ant Works. She was my 5th or 6th interview. Now, Dee, I know personally, she can't do things that don't fit her internal belief system. We've had a conversation just recently. She's struggling with taking on a client because of what their vision for the ground was on this project. And not that she's saying it's my way or the highway, but she's saying I have to believe in what they're doing. I can't just do something to make money. And I look at that, and to me, that just, if you're willing to walk away from money and work for your values, for what you believe, whatever those are, I'm not here to talk, about your values, but if you're willing to do that for your values, I have so much respect for that. Another example is back to Amy with Wiglish. Amy, if you listen to that, she cares about the toys that she brings in. Like, it's kind of insane how much she just cares about it. She's not going to just bring in any toy you can find at Walmart. And I remember asking her, well, do you lose revenue from that? She goes, I have exactly, because you can't just come here and get the Pokemon cards or whatever. And she actually said, there's a place for those. I love them. I mean, my son has them when we're driving on a long drive. He pulls out his cards. So she wasn't throwing that down. But what she was saying is, I'm willing to turn down money, turn down revenue for quality, for belief, for integrity. And that really stands out to me. Another example, as I look at my interview with Paul Clark of Timber Ridge Custom Homes. Paul, and I could have brought that up in the struggles. Paul shared, where his business, how hard it got hit, and then he built it back. But with Paul, you go to his site, you talk to him, you realize he really cares about, his name is on every build. So he's not building anything that he doesn't love, that he doesn't believe in. And again, it's this idea of there are some things more important than money and my name, my value, my company. I'm not just going to put my stamp on anything that's going to make me money. It's not always about the money. And I love when I see business owners who get that, because what I have found is if you stick to that core belief and you turn down those things, you will be placed in a direction that you will connect with the right people, right? You will find the jobs and you'll be appreciated for it, and you'll feel good because you didn't have to sacrifice your integrity or your belief system. So that's kind of the third thing, is just really stick to your core beliefs and don't go outside of them for anything. Don't budge on those. There's places in business where you make compromises, and that's okay, and that's important. That's what business is. But when it comes to your core values, your integrity, or your purpose, and that can change, and that's okay, but don't change them for money. Don't sell out. It's like making an album. Don't be that sellout band just to get that one-hit wonder. Stay true to what you can offer. And long run, it'll pay off. And sometimes in the short run, it pays off. Okay, number 4, and I hope I am on number 4. I could be on 5. I'm just terrible at that kind of stuff. But the next one I want to talk about that's really jumped at me is always looking around for good opportunities, and being able to say no. Because one thing you will find, and I remember speaking about this on my third or fourth one with Tracy from Best Western, and as well as with John Call, who was my third interview, was this idea of it was once you get out there and you have some successes, it's amazing how many people will come to you with ideas. You don't even have to look for them. People will come because they know the kind of person you are. They know that you're a thinker, that you're a mover, that you can make things happen. And so ideas come all the time, and you have to turn some down. Some are terrible. But sometimes you're in the middle of what you think you're supposed to be doing, or maybe it was for that period, that time period, and more things come at you. And I remember talking with Tracy, and I look at where the things that he has been a part of, from the natural food store to the gas stations to some of the hotel chains, and all these things. And sometimes I think it's great to have, a lot of times, that diversity, to have different projects happening, as long as, again, they all fit your core belief and you can give what you need to give to all of them. Another example was John Call. He was with the candy company, Call's Candy. Then he was doing, even back when he was making T-shirts, right, and selling them with Simpsons characters on them at the candy company, and he's doing, he was with the peanut company, and then the last one was the shipping containers. These guys are always looking for projects that will make sense to them. So don't be afraid to look for things. Don't be afraid. Don't think because you've got one thing that's going well that's it. I'll just stay here for 40 years and do it. Because one thing I'm finding is people start losing that excitement, that what really sparked them in the beginning to get so excited about business. After a time when it's just doing well and you're having success, you're not as hungry. And so don't be afraid to have your eyes open. And like I said, people will approach you with ideas, but don't be afraid to A, say no to them, but B, look into them. And it's been really fun to see these entrepreneurs that have had multiple projects going on, and they're not afraid of it. Another example was Tim Morris of Park City Tree. He's got this roofing company in California. He's got this tree company in Park City. And he talked about this isotope company, who he met through some people locally. And so he's not abandoning any of the companies. He's still doing everything that he needs to do for those companies, but he is putting himself in a position to diversify and to kind of widen his scope. And I think it's great because it keeps him excited, it keeps him interested in wanting to stay in that creative, excited space. So my advice, I say my advice, but what I have learned, their advice is be open. Always be, if someone comes to you with an idea that you were not anticipating or even looking for at the time, it might be worth your time to just listen and see if there's anything there that you could bring to the table and that could have value in your life. Don't be afraid. My fifth takeaway for today comes from a few people. One of my first interviews with the Jinja. Those of you who know the lawn Jinja, he is a YouTube influencer in the lawn care space and one of the biggest ones in the country and possibly the world. And what I liked about our conversation that I wanted to bring up now, besides, he's just a funny guy and he's awesome, was that sometimes you have to know when to move on. We talked in my last point, don't be afraid. You can still give part, you can still run this thing well, and you can still be open to other things. But with his, I noticed this progression. He got into this side of it, which led him into a service company, an actual physical service company, going out and taking care of lawns. And then as he was building content for his YouTube channel and subscribers, it just started blowing up around the world. People come to him and they want him to sponsor. They want him to rep different products. Not just America. And then he says, okay, well, maybe that's where I'm supposed to go. And Anyway, so he's slowly kind of phasing out, I think, out of his service company, or he will be at some point. He has plans to, and to make that the thing. And I saw the same thing with Lawrence Whipple from Virgin. His story was really just like we talked about in the beginning, step by step. But he got into some things, and then he was trying to figure out in the internet. He felt strongly, I've got to do an internet business, and he didn't know what that looked like, and so he just put his head down and tried to build 100 internet businesses to find one that found out. But then he found this whole marketing piece that really connected, and he got really good at it and became an expert. And sometimes that's how it is. We have to know when it's time to move on, and sometimes the move on may look like you sell your company and move into another space, or it may look like you continue that or you hand it off and keep ownership or percentage, and then you build this other thing on the side. But I think there's an important lesson there. And also Katie with Expedition Flags, she was building her bike company in the Midwest, and then she was trying to get back to Utah, or they were coming back to Utah. And she's been through a series of, photography companies and this idea, and until finally she settled on this Expedition Flags. It just felt great to her. And so, just this constant progression and trying things, but doing it in a smart way. So I love the idea of sometimes you just have to know when, the question is, when do I move? When do I mix it up? When do I change directions? Or a new opportunity came up to me, maybe I need to pursue that. And so I think you need to be open to that. And a lot of times what I've learned from Lawrence, from Jared, from Katie, is you feel it in your gut. You just feel it. It. There's this internal voice or feeling or conscious or spirit that just tells you, hey, this is it. Let's go. And so you need to be in tune to that. You need to be paying attention to those feelings and those ideas that come to you. I think one of my favorite examples of that last one, actually, of all those, would be Jeff Kohler with, at the time, it was a marketing videos club. And I've just hired his company to do quite a bit of work. And now he's got a company called Socialize. And Jeff is a great example of that. I think he's a brilliant guy. He's a father of 5. I think he's got one on the way. But Jeff it's been a series of things. If you remember, he went from the mattress store to online marketing locally for companies in Heber, to the video club where he was creating tools, really cool applications online where it could assist your company in making videos. And now he's moved on to Socialize. And they're kind of all the same in some way, well, except for the mattress store. But again, it's this progression of things. As he was in it, he said, oh, maybe I need to pivot a tad bit this way and then this way, and it's almost this fine-tuning process of it. So my advice on that one, to wrap that one up, is just, you may be an expert at what you're doing, and it's awesome. But sometimes be open to, maybe there's a little tiny bit of a pivot in the same space, in the same what you're doing, that is the game changer. Maybe it's a little tiny pivot in a direction that really will unlock your potential of where you wanted and who you wanted to be and the business you wanted to create. My next little takeaway, and I'm kind of winding down. Again, I have no script, so it's can only go so far here. But the next one that I want to point out came from my interviews with Tangi Wolford of Kind Wise Mind, who's a mindfulness instructor, and also with Audrey from Wasatch Hypnotherapy. Both incredible women. But one thing that really jumped out to me was these, and others, but those are the ones I want to use as the example. Both of these women really, really believed and experienced the product that they're selling. Now, they're selling services. One uses hypnotherapy to help people heal, to fix internal problems, physical problems. The other uses mindfulness to help people heal, to become honest with themselves. But both of them, Tangi, when she lost her mother at a young age, had to discover mindfulness. She had to live it, and she has to live it. I remember she said that. You want the problem and the good thing and the bad thing of being a mindfulness, I think it's instructor. I can't remember the exact word, Tangi, sorry. But the good and the bad things are, you have to live it, right? If you're preaching it. And so it kind of forces you into that. But she lost her mother at a young age and had all these questions. Well, what do? I take care of the family, and I had to work through that. And it was mindfulness that she discovered that helped her to find peace. And so in return, she's turning around and sharing that and teaching that gift and skill to others to make a difference. Same thing with Audrey. Audrey talked about some physical ailments that she had at the time, and literally was forced into, she had been trying everything and anything you could think of, and was at a school to learn hypnotherapy. I think it was New Mexico, but it flared up, this physical ailment flared up on her at school. And she said, okay, well, what am I going to do? Like, this is my biggest fear. This is not easy. And she said, wait, I'm at a school with a bunch of hypnotherapists to learn it. Let's do this. And she went through this process and experienced hypnotherapy and became a believer, right? And now because of that, so both of them, they really believe in what they're selling and what they're teaching and offering. And because they believe in it, they are more powerful as they do it, because they know, they had a firsthand witness, this stuff works, mindfulness, hypnotherapy, and they can now do it with a conviction. Like, they don't, there's no, I think this is going to help you. They know, no, I've been through this. This helped me overcome this. And I think for any business, everyone I've interviewed and anyone I haven't interviewed, if you don't believe in your product, please stop. It's like, I love music, but songwriters that may write songs for a reason, to make money or to whatever, but you can sense it. You can sense it when someone's not being authentic, when they're generic. You can sense it when someone takes the stage and it feels fake. Same thing with an entrepreneur. You have to believe in what you're doing. If you're a lawn care, you better be a great lawn care and offer a great service. Whatever you are. So I love that lesson. They know it because they lived it. In wrapping up, I want to share my last thought, my last takeaway. And this one, I think, was mentioned, it seemed, by almost every entrepreneur I've interviewed and sat down with so far. But I think the one that really talked about this more than others was my interview with Peter Malinka, CPA. Peter, he says, I'm a strategist, not just a tax guy. But one of the things that really, and I saved it for last because I think it's so powerful, is he talked about trying to find his place, find what it is he's supposed to do. And I remember he would say, I'd go through an experience, something hard or disappointment. In fact, him and I we had a statement that we made up. It was, business is managing disappointments, And he says he would always go back and say, what am I supposed to learn from this? And he would keep a journal, and he learned. And so he would start learning lessons like patience, or I have to slow down, or I've got to take care of my body. I've got to go to the gym, or I've got to be kind, and, or karma. And he would learn these things, but he would learn them because he was asking the hard question. What am I supposed to learn? Instead of getting mad when a trial came and said, oh man, what the heck? I've done so much. Here we are. He would look at every opportunity and say, what am I supposed to learn from this? How is this struggle going to make me a better person? How is this issue going to help me take care of my family or my community? And I really love that, and I believe I subscribe to that fully. If you look at every opposition, every trial that way in business, and there are a lot, it's just managing disappointments, you will find that business is a place, entrepreneurship is an opportunity. It's a space where you can learn to refine yourself and become the best version of yourself. And he mentioned, he had this, oh man, I remember he said one of the darkest moments in his history was he had 5 key employees, all of them left in 24-hour period for like totally random things. Like one had to go help his dad in another state. One had to go here. Right before tax season, he gets in this ATV incident. He's on his own in the business right before December, January, which is the craziest time. And then he jacks up his arm. I don't think he can use his arm, and he's all by himself, and he's got to run this business, right? But I remember he said, I just looked at it after, and he said it wasn't easy. It was a mind game. What am I supposed to learn from this? And I want to wrap up on that thought because that is, I think, powerful. And I think if you keep asking that questions, how can I be better? What do I learn from this? You're always going to be improving who you are and becoming the best version of yourself and a better CEO. And with that, one common thread that I have learned is when these entrepreneurs were walking through that and trying to find that answer, because that's a hard question. Why did this happen to me? What am I going to learn? I've noticed that all of them turn to, almost all of them. I shouldn't say all of them. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth. And I don't know if everyone has said this, but many of them have turned to a higher power. Many of them have this realization that they are being helped and supported by something greater than themselves. And there's a bigger purpose, and we're all connected. And I know my interview with Burgeon Marketing, it was a lot about that. He didn't know where to go. And so he talked a lot about prayer. Peter as well talked a lot about his faith. And I've noticed that thread that it's often a faith, which is a belief in something, right? That you don't know. You don't have proof or evidence, but you know it's going to happen. You just know it inside. And a lot of these men and women, they rely on their faith to carry them to where they have to go. And in the hardest moments, the darkest moments that I asked them to share, it was their faith in a higher power, in something bigger that helped them through it and helped them find themselves. So there it is. So anyway, guys, as you can see, my voice is getting tired. Again, I just winged all that. I hope it winged it. I'm making up words now, but I hope that makes sense. But that's my takeaways on these. And I look forward to more interviews and learning more. And maybe in another 20, I'll do another takeaway off of those. But for all of you who are listening, thank you for listening to these guys' stories. The reason I wanted to do this is because I believe in who they are and and I believe in their story. And I believe if everyone could hear them, it would be inspirational. And so I'll leave it on that. So this is Ete with my own episode of The Company Next Door. Nothing about my company because it's not about me, but with a recap on the other entrepreneurs, the neighbors, the good men and women of this community who are doing great things, building great companies, providing incomes for others, and providing a service to make a difference. So I say to all you guys who have allowed me to spend time with you, thank you. I've appreciated it. I've loved it. I look forward to the next 20, 30, 40 interviews. I will be taking the show on the road in November, and I'll be doing it throughout the country in my RV. That's something else. Anyway, see you on the next episode with another guest. See ya.